Well, Slancha, happy St. Patrick's Day, and how do you do, Buckaroos? How the heck are you? Hey, so joining me on St. Patrick's Day. So last year on St. Patrick's Day, I had the one and only Beer Samurai, but this year I got the one and only Bruguru.
Hey, happy St. Patrick's Day, Tom.
How you
Everybody,
doing, man?
I'm good. Good. It's a good day. Good day to enjoy some food and, of course, some beer. So,
I don't know what the weather's like in your neck of the woods, but it is unseasonably warm here today.
it's not too bad. It was supposed to rain, and it never really did. But it's been around 67 today, so
Oh,
fairly
no.
nice. Thursday was really beautiful. It was 81 and
Oh,
sunny, and
it's crazy.
yeah. So we'll take it.
John,
I'm sorry.
what are you drinking?
I have from Creature Comforts Brewery here in Georgia, in Athens, actually. I have their Abby I Love You Dry Irish Stout. So
Oh, nice. There you go. All right.
wanted to start with something local. Actually, I just after the corned beef and cabbage, I had a left hand nitro dry Irish Stout, which was very tasty. And then I got several flavors, varieties of Guinness lined up for later on tonight. So,
Well, let me look at mine here. I just got it poured.
Nice. Looks good.
It is the Marrow's Cap, an Irish style ale from Banter Brewing at 4.8%. As you know, I work for that brewery.
Yep.
But this thing was just so gorgeous.
Yeah, that looks like a really beautiful beer.
The color is nice, and boy, he got the color right on it. That's for damn sure.
Mm.
So, have you got yours poured?
Oh yeah.
Show us what it looks like. Oh, it's
Good.
beautiful. All right. So what are you getting from that one?
It's typical dry Irish stout. It's not too heavy. It's roast, plenty of roast, a little licorice, just a hint of chocolate, and a roast in the finish, but just a hint of grassy bitter hops too. So,
so you mentioned licorice. I often describe that note as anise.
Yeah, they're pretty close, one to the other. So you could call it that.
Or you mean black licorice when you're saying licorice,
yeah,
right?
that's right. Yep.
Which is the only real licorice, but anyway, that's an argument for another day.
That's the only one in my book. That's for sure.
And the rest is just corn syrup. But anyway,
the rest is fruit flavored corn syrup usually. But
so how are you doing on this St. Patrick's Day? Did you do anything working up to the festivities? Since we had all weekend to do something, right? But I know work's been crazy for you. So did you do anything else?
Well, I was on vacation last week, so we did a few things, but not much. We stayed,
right?
Yeah, Thursday was the big 6-0.
I would ask you. Oh, you said it anyway. Okay, I wasn't going to ask how old, but
volunteer it. So
my birthday's in May, so it looks like you're exactly a year older than I am.
Yeah.
I turned 59 this year.
Yeah.
It sneaks up on us, don't it?
It does. Where do the years go? But beats the alternative, right?
So do you feel 60?
I don't know. What's 60 supposed to feel like? It's I still feel get a little tired sometimes, and it's
The body does, but the mentality not so much.
Yeah, the mentality is the same as it's ever been. I'm still a couple of cans short of a 6-pack, but
Yeah.
Every
joke, my wife asked me, "How old are you?" Can I say certain jokes will always be funny? Fart jokes are always funny.
Oh, your wife asked you that question too, huh? Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, it's you're going to feel your age to some degree, but I'm just happy. A lot of people don't even make it this far, so just glad to be here and had a good day. Drank some really good beers out. Like I said, the weather was beautiful. Listen to some music, and that's life is good.
Well, that's good. You can't ask for more than that.
Nope.
You're not a whiskey drinker, though. I know that about you.
No,
I'm not indulging in the Irish whiskey.
No, yeah. In the early days, in the 90s, I would drink Scotch.
Scotch? Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I delved into it a little bit, but really, my liver told me that if I was going to drink more than beer, it was going to secede from my body. So I said, all right, I'll just
Yeah.
stick with the beer. You get the one thing, and but I mean, beer and whiskey are very closely related. They're both malt beverages, right? I understand a lot of why a lot of people do really like them. And in fact, a lot of my early exposure to whiskey in the early '90s was thanks to a brewer, because he made beer, but he loved drinking beer, but he enjoyed whiskey too. So
Nice. A lot of people ask for, I've got friends that smoke or smoke cigars, and so why don't you smoke, Tom? Well, I like to drink, and I can't afford two bad habits. That's
I actually did that too. In the late '80s and early '90s, I fooled around with cigars, but what I found was that I guess there are certain beers that will stand up to it, but for me, smoking the cigar just it detracted from the experience of the beer, because
yeah, for beer, yeah, you'd have to have something bold like a Scotch, for instance.
yeah,
But for the most part, cigar, you've got to have some whiskey with. You need that big malt.
yeah, barley wines and imperial stout sometimes, but even with them, I think with those beers, it just I mean, it affects your taste buds. The smoke does.
It does. It does completely. Yeah, I cannot disagree with that.
I kind of got away from
Cigar about, I don't know, maybe 3 times a year, just on the holidays when all the family would get together, and the guys would go out on the front porch, so I'd have a cigar with the rest of them. But I remember waking up one morning and I couldn't breathe. And my eyes were swollen, and so that was it. My wife says, no, I was going to say that was it for me, but my wife said, that is it for you. You're not doing this anymore. So, and I haven't since. That was oh gosh, that's probably a decade and a half ago now. That was a while back. I won't say everyone enjoyed it that much. I didn't hate it, but I didn't mind. It just seemed like a fun thing to do, a couple, 3 times a year. But I didn't enjoy it to want to keep doing it.
Yeah, that was my thing. I liked it, but I actually enjoyed smoking.
I like
more. So yeah, not as much as beer. Yep.
I've given up everything but this. What was the old Doobie Brothers album? Once vices are now habits.
Yeah, one man's vice is another man's habit too, right? So
Mercy.
Or as Nietzsche said, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. So
or just makes us have unflattering coping mechanisms, but that saying might not have cut as much ground.
Yeah, and then but my favorite way of looking at it is like Jackson did. He was like, if you can't have anything in life to enjoy, what's the point of life, right? They may indeed be, people say this is bad for you and that's bad for you, but in the end, that could be said of a lot of different things that we do, right?
You get drinking, smoking, mead, become a vegan, do a lot of exercise, and you're still going to die anyway.
You're still going to die at some point.
Not going to live longer. It'll just feel like it.
Yep. That's exactly so. So, I mean, you still want to balance it out as much as possible, but they can pry my beer from my cold dead fingers. So
yeah. Someone asked me the other day, so Tom, what do you think the age is for midlife crisis? I'd say about 40. He said, really? That seems young. How old are you? I said, I'm 58. So you don't think 58 is midlife? I said, no, I'm not going to live to 108.
Yeah, that's I do get a kick out of how people.
If I get to 80, it's going to be a freaking miracle.
Yeah, people tend to stretch middle age out a lot further than it really should go. So
I think middle age is 40 to 50. After that, we're at 3/4. We're heading down that hill after 50.
Yeah, that's for sure.
We've reached the top and we're working our way down. We try to make it as slowly as possible, but nevertheless.
Yeah. Qualify for the senior discount, but not considered elderly.
I don't understand people that won't take a discount. Do you get these folks? They don't want to admit their age.
No, I'll take it. I mean, I don't ask for it unless I know they give it on a certain day, right? I don't go. But
I'll take every discount they're going to offer me, man.
I mean, if you're offering it, the gal at I was buying beer glasses actually at Goodwill on a Tuesday, and I didn't know, and she just automatically gave it to me. I didn't even know till I got in the parking lot, and the receipt said senior discount on it. And at first, I was like, "What?" So I had to go back and ask, what's the senior discount? She's like 55 and older. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't seem so bad. This was only a few years ago, right? So, um, I
Hey, if
just
they want to assume I'm older, I'm okay with that as long as I get the discount.
there you go. Yeah. Hey,
10%, 10%, man.
I think it
It's
was
like,
20.
like the old joke, $5 is $5.
Yeah, yeah. That's another beer glass, so or two.
So you got anything else planned now that this is the end of the St. Patrick's weekend?
Yeah, no, this and hang out, have a few more Guinness and just chill. Probably listen to some music later and back to work tomorrow. So
Yeah, so I have to work tomorrow too, but because I don't know, I think I've told you that I gave up my regular day gig. I let that one go, so now I'm just working at Banter Brewing. So I do work tomorrow, but hell, I don't have to go in until 3:30. I don't have to
oh,
wait 5:30 in the morning anymore. I've been doing that for so many years. Retraining my body is has been difficult. It wants
you
to
work
wake up at 6 o'clock.
you work like a second shift? Second shift hours, 3:30 to midnight, or how late do you
No,
work?
no, the hours aren't that long there on a Monday, but then until 4, so it's only 3:30 to 9:30 tomorrow. So,
That's not bad. That's not
nah, as a beer tender,
which is fun. You get some conversation in.
that's nice. I worked for Saddlebach several years ago, but in sales. So
Yeah.
I didn't know. I like to think I understand craft beer, but I had never worked actually behind a bar until Banter gave me the chance to do it. And I really enjoy it. I really like talking because Banter's a different operation, whereas a lot of craft breweries these days seem to be about being fast and efficient. Whereas back in the old days, it was about talking to people and explaining the craft beers. And it seems like that's kind of gone away. But Banter's kind of that flashback from the past where they want you talking to your customers. They want you to be knowledgeable about the beer you're selling.
Yeah, and that's I mean, you're when you're doing that, you're sales again. You're selling their product.
Well, you put it
Um,
in a different way, but yeah.
it's true. It really is. I remember this was many years ago when I was working at Max Liquors. So this was back in the early to mid 90s. And um, one of the other guys was complaining to the owner because I was off talking to customers about craft beer. And we had regulars that came in, just as I'm sure you have regulars that
Mhm.
come in because they like the beer but they like the conversation too. And they like the advice, they like the conversation about beer. And anyway, this guy was complaining and saying, well, he's not working while I'm over here running the register. And uh, the owner's name was Jeff, and he's like, what are you talking about? He's working. He's selling the product. He's like, they come back for that. They want that. They can't get that. They can't get the knowledge of the product. If they go down the street to the other guy. So really you're selling the product every day when you do that. And I mean, I go to Taco Mac because they have a great selection of beer, but I'm a regular there, and I know all the bartenders, and we always shoot the shit when I go and have a good time. So some of the patrons too, they show up. I know
Kind of
them.
experience, right? You want the bartender to be able to talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk sports, we talk beer, um, talk whatever, and but that's all part of the game. So I'm sorry.
Sometimes I'm a therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. Bartenders have been doing that for centuries. So.
Yeah, it's funny. I always thought that was kind of a misnomer, but it is kind of, especially with some of the younger folks I deal with, because I'm an old guy, right? So they see me as sort of a voice of wisdom, and because they don't know me well enough to know I don't have any wisdom. So over a certain age, they think you're smarter than you are.
Yeah, well, take advantage of that too. That's probably better than the senior discount. So
I appreciate that you think I'm smarter than I know I am.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, mercy. I've had a nice weekend. I did work Friday. They've kind of changed my role a little bit at Banter. We've added some whiskey selections, not a lot. It's just going to be a couple different offerings per season. But they actually had me design a cocktail for St. Patrick's Day. So that was kind of nice too. That I've now they've got me doing some other things. So really enjoy doing that.
That's pretty interesting that the law allows that at a. I don't know that some of the breweries we have are distilleries as well.
It's a different license. You have to add a different license, but you
Oh,
can.
okay. Yeah, I don't even think they can here. I think that you can carry your own product.
Mhm.
And so if you do have a distillery as in addition to your brewery, you could sell that. But as far as I know, I've never actually really thought about it. I don't recall ever seeing like you mean you go to a restaurant or a multi-tap bar or what have you, then obviously they're going to have everything. But when you go to a freestanding brewery, I think a brew pub, they have those things, but a brew pub is, although the lines are being blurred, it is a different
They
entity.
are now. A lot of places are carrying. So there's a couple others uh, breweries in town, just slightly bigger than we are. That they're not distilling their own product, but are bringing in other things and doing cocktails as well.
Interesting. The industry continues to evolve.
Doesn't it? Oh mercy! So I know you're not a whiskey guy, but being St. Patrick's Day, I'm going to do a St. Patrick's tradition for me anyway. So I picked up this Jameson. Have you ever had this? I know. Again, I know you're not a whiskey.
Oh yeah, I've had Jameson before.
This is their stout edition.
I don't think I've had the stout edition.
So stout cask finished, and I've even got a Jameson shot glass here. I've had this thing for, gosh, I've had this for so long. I don't even know how long I've had it. I've had it for at least 3 decades. I got it by accident. Anyways, it's a long story. But anyways, it's a long story, man. I'm gonna do an Irish Boilermaker while you talk about what your beer is there.
Yeah, again, it's Creature Comforts. They're a little darling brewery of the beer geek clique. But I really like them too. They make great beers. They're best known for Tropicalia IPA. And if you saw Avengers, I think the last Avengers movie with Thanos, Thor, when Thor put on like 500 pounds and was drinking beer constantly, he was chugging Creature Comforts beer.
Really, I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was the Tropicalia.
I wanted to see that.
Yeah, the next time you watch that movie, watch for the beer he's drinking because it's local here to Georgia, and but they did a good job on this dry Irish stout. So I had never seen this one before. I picked it up at the Stout Brothers beer market when I went to pick up some growlers there Thursday, and I picked up some singles and stuff. So.
Well, I just poured myself another Banter Marrow's cap. 4.8%. It is easily sessionable. We can argue about what constitutes a session beer, but it's easy to drink, let's say.
Yeah.
So I've been going on and on ad nauseum to my wife's viewpoint about how irritated I am with leap year moving St. Patrick's Day from Saturday to Sunday. Any thoughts about that?
That's no. I mean, it is what it is, right? To me,
yeah, it's kind of it's one of those arguments, but still, I feel like we got gypped out of a day.
We got cheated of a weekend day, right? For St. Patrick's Day, but not this year. I mean, it's on Sunday, but next year it'll be on Monday. 1 year.
On Monday, we got ripped, man.
You need to do a rant next year about it.
I'm already writing it now, John. I made a joke to my wife a while back that I'm entering my curmudgeon phase, and she says, "Entering?"
Leap year doesn't really bother me because there's a scientific reason for it, right?
I know. Well, that was kind of the joke, but yeah.
Yeah. but I'm not a fan of daylight savings time. If you want to gripe about something,
Oh gosh. Yeah. We can go on. I go full curmudgeon about daylight savings time if you want.
I mean, I don't. How does it save? It's still pitch dark at 7:15 in the morning here.
Well, the thing of it is, I mean, there might have been a time when it made sense, but it doesn't make sense anymore.
Not to me. I think people like the fact that it stays late in the evenings, but I'm more of a morning person. I'm up 4 or 5 o'clock every morning. And I would rather have that daylight an hour earlier in the morning than for it to stay late an hour later in the evening. So I guess pick your poison, but one way or another.
Dark at 5 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah, just leave it the way it is, or don't. But
yeah, see, I agree.
It messes with my body clock too.
I guess I mean, there was a reason why it was done in the first place. I kind of understand it, but that society is gone. That way of living is gone. It's not needed anymore.
Not something I'm a fan of, but it was Ben Franklin's idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, the law wasn't enacted then, but yeah, he was the first to come up with the idea. Yeah,
like the guy, but not that so much. So,
well, even a genius has his off days.
That's true. We'll allow that.
He was having a bad day.
He did a lot of other great stuff, so we'll let it go. But.
And from what I understand, he was a man of questionable morals as well.
As far as his relationship with the fairer sex is concerned,
yeah,
I've read that too. I've heard that, but
and I heard he had a relationship with, say, spirits as well.
Oh, he liked to drink. Well, I like the guy even more.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. What else was there to do? I mean, so
drink and hump.
Yeah, well, I mean, he liked to read a lot and all that, and go flying kites in thunderstorms. But
so that can you do though?
True. Eventually, you gotta have a drink.
Women start looking good.
Yeah, that's what the drinks come
in. Oh, mercy.
He lived a long time though, so he had to.
How old was he when he died?
He was well into his 80s.
God, that's a long time back then too.
Yeah,
wow.
Yep, 2.5 centuries ago.
Right? Would be considered extremely old back then, because most were dying. What, about 50?
Yeah, and I think he was a frequent traveler too, to Europe, which in those days he served in official capacity for the United States, for the fledgling United States, and even before then. But it was not. We talk about
a politician, though, huh?
Yeah, he was a consummate politician, but
he never ran for office, though.
I don't think so. Well, I mean, he never held he wasn't a senator. He wasn't president. But he signed the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
He was, one of the founding fathers. But he invented the postal system, or our version of it. So he did a lot, but again, his longevity was, considering all the travel that he did in those days. The longevity is all the more amazing, because we complain about turbulence on a flight now, but I mean, transatlantic trip on a ship in those days was never a sure thing, so you run.
And then how many of his peers died of syphilis? So it kind of was amazing. He was a womanizer, an alcoholic, and still never died.
Maybe the alcohol preserved him. But
anyway,
he was a character too. He was a character. He had a great sense of humor. So
probably would have made a great president, now that I think about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't surprise me.
Not worse than some that we've had anyway.
That's true. I think we did pretty well in those days. I don't know, I guess up to about John Quincy Adams. And
oh yeah.
But John Adams was a good president, of course, and Washington and Jefferson. but I'm not a fan of Andrew Jackson.
No, I don't know how anybody could be.
But we did. I think we did okay right up until then. So
Well,
definitely better than today, which is
yeah,
not a jab at Joe Biden because
around there. Uh, I can't say Jefferson was a bad president, but knowing what we know now about his personal life makes him a little bit questionable.
Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
like I said, I can't say he wasn't a great president. I'm not going to say he didn't understand politics, but his personal life wasn't great.
no, and I mean, I have qualms with all. I don't understand how somebody that was as liberal minded and pro democracy as Jefferson could own slaves at the same time. That's for me. It's
Yeah. That's a problem.
You really should extend. If you, I don't understand. I'm glad I can't understand it because if I could rationalize it, there'd be
Yeah, you can't.
something wrong. It doesn't mean he wasn't, in other ways, a great man, and he did a
Yeah,
great.
you just have to. I guess you have to compartmentalize. I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Franklin owned slaves too. We were just talking about him, but he towards the end of his life he freed all of them, and he actually became anti-slavery towards the end. So it must be something that he had dwelt on. But it's but it's always a challenge for me. I don't know. It's always going to be a problem. And one of my distant relatives, Nathaniel Greene, who fought in the Revolutionary War and was a general. And he was a slave owner too. I actually lived not far from in Rhode Island. I grew up very close to the Nathaniel Greene homestead, and there were graves that were marked as slave graves on his property. And after the Revolutionary War, he actually won some major battles and defended the state of Georgia. So, like I did, he came down here, and he was awarded land and again was a slaveholder. So that's very difficult to come to terms with. So
Yeah.
but now that we're talking about Ben Franklin and age and all that, if we're going to talk about politics, let's get politically incorrect. And I don't know where you stand on this, but in the current election, because you can't have a beer on St. Patrick's Day without talking about politics, right? I think we're unfortunately at a point where we've got two candidates that are just too old to be president. And I don't mean to say that somebody can't be their age. And I think Bernie Sanders is older. He is older than both of them, and he's sharp as a tack. But he's got health concerns too. He had a heart attack, right? And would you really want to put somebody in the highest stress job in the world and maybe give him another one? But I see the gaffes that they both make. I think of course I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, because if you got a choice between Donald Trump and Joe Biden having senior moments, at least one of them's not an asshole.
Between a Nazi and somebody who forgets stuff, but he's got a good heart, yeah, I'm going to vote for the guy that forgets stuff and has a good heart, and not the Nazi.
Yeah, but the thing is, the Nazi forgets stuff and makes mistakes all the time too. So I
mean, that's kind of my point. Is, man, not only is he forgetting stuff, but we know he's a bigot. We know he's a racist. We know he's a rapist.
But
I mean,
in addition to that,
but have you listened to some of this guy's speeches?
Oh yeah, all the time.
I mean, every time somebody on the other side of the aisle says something to me about Joe Biden saying something wrong, I have to send them a clip of a.
Well, what boggles my mind more than all,
this is what this guy says.
I can't understand at all how people can just put aside all the terrible things that he's done, right? Especially January 6th.
Yeah.
Tried to overthrow. It's like, why do you think he assembled a mob on the day they were counting the electoral votes? Do you really think that was a coincidence? You don't think he planned that whole thing
Yeah,
after
absolutely.
after he tried to assemble a slate of fake electors and all the other things that he did? You just keep giving the guy a pass. But then on top of all that stuff, you're going to say Joe Biden is too old, but Donald Trump isn't. And they're 2 years apart. And it's just, I have no, it boggles my mind that people can do that. Now, if I had my druthers, we would have had two different candidates altogether.
No, I mean, I went on a rant 4 years ago about the best we could do is two old white guys. I mean, enough already.
Yeah.
The boomers have had their chance. The Gen X is screwed up. It's
Yep.
time for somebody younger. We need somebody under 50 to handle this shit.
Absolutely. I think it's time to let the younger generation have a shot at it. And they may mess things up too, but they deserve their chance to mess things up, right? And I don't know. It's where we're at. I think
Here we are again with two old guys.
Yeah, well, but at least we're not two old guys that are clinging to the guy that retweeted a white guy yelling white power. So
that's the problem. That's the best the other side could do with somebody that's a racist rapist. That's the best they could do.
Yep.
That's who they decided to run. With all the information we have now, we know he incited insurrection. We know he tried to overturn an election. We know he stole documents, classified documents, and they still voted for him.
Yep.
Even with that information, they voted for him.
Absolutely. And they deny all those things. They say, and a lot of it has to do with them narcissism, their own narcissism, because if they admit Trump did those things, then they have to admit they were wrong to support him.
It's like cognitive dissonance. If you have to admit there's something wrong with your thought process if you admit the truth. But here's the facts. The facts are those are the facts. It's not an opinion that Donald Trump did these things. These are provable facts.
Yeah, I'll tell you, my wife is probably the least political person you will ever meet in your life. She just has not, she doesn't get involved in it. She hasn't, but she went out to vote against Donald Trump because she's like, if nothing else, look at the example he sets for our grandkids. Do you really
how can you have daughters and vote for this man?
Yeah.
That's the part that makes no sense to me.
If you're going to dismiss, he's on the Access Hollywood tape. I mean, if you're going to say, well, that's just locker room talk. Well, you know what? You shouldn't be talking about women that way. And I absolutely do not want the president of the United States talking about women that way. So if you can dismiss it that easily, then it's why I can't stand Bill Clinton, right? I'm a Democrat. I've been a Republican in the past, but I never liked Bill Clinton for the same reason, because he did the same thing. What he did with Monica Lewinsky, pressured her, used his position of authority, and really disgraced the Oval Office. I mean, he had sex with her in the Oval Office, right? You can't take one and say that what they did is bad and take the other one and say it isn't. But I do see that all the time. People will say, that Bill Clinton was a pervert and all these other things, and somehow blame Hillary for Bill cheating on her. Somehow they think that's her fault.
Yeah.
But they will totally dismiss everything. Oh no, Donald Trump didn't do any of those things.
Melania gets a pass.
Bill Clinton and Jennifer Flowers. Oh yeah, that was horrible. Or with Monica Lewinsky, that was horrible. But Trump never did that with Stormy Daniels. She's lying. Yeah, okay. You can't do it. You have to, and somehow Bill Clinton.
The thing that would make me question the Stormy Daniels thing is I think she's older than his type.
Well, I don't know.
John.
Seems to be someone he would be attracted to.
Most of the women he was been out with.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yes, I get it. Yeah.
He wasn't paying her for nothing.
There's a lot of pictures with him with very young women. I mean,
Yeah,
well, girls actually, they're not women. They're young girls. They're under 18, and
including
how
questionable pictures with him and his daughter. Yeah,
with Epstein.
yeah. Oh well, no, that's different. Even though there's as many connections between Clinton and Epstein as there are as Trump and Epstein, but Clinton killed
Yeah,
Epstein, and
but
it's all
right there, you said it. That is the very difference between conservatives and liberals. If you can prove Clinton was with these folks on Epstein Island, we want them. We want to put away just as much as we want Trump put away.
yes. I don't know that he was. I think he might have been on the island. I know he was on flights. He was on charter flights with Epstein, but so was Trump.
Trump was as well. So you can't say I want this one punished and not that one.
Exactly, but they do. They do. They don't think it's the same thing. There's photos. There's multiple photos of Trump and Epstein together. And I mean, if it's good for the goose, good for the gander. And I
Guilty
think,
is guilty.
yeah, you have to you have to look at them both the same way. I don't like either of them. I never voted for Bill Clinton. I voted for Ross Perot. And
Yeah,
obviously,
Ross was crazy, man. Ross
Perot,
was batshit crazy.
well, he was different for sure, but
Yeah, but as the campaign went on, you could see his eyes were getting weird. His speeches were getting nuts. I mean, he was getting crazier as it went on. He started out okay, but then his later speeches were rambling and bizarre.
Yeah, well, what attracted me to him though was the fact that he was calling out the fact that we can't deficit spend.
Yeah, and I understand that's where his popularity.
Yeah,
he had a.
And ironically, even though he didn't,
the camera was on him, the more he looked just nuts.
Yeah, I guess I have to a degree. I have to admit that that's one good thing that Bill Clinton did was he actually did balance the budget and he ran surpluses.
Yeah, he did.
And then George Bush got elected, cut taxes for the wealthy, and put the Iraq War on a credit card, and blew the deficits through the roof, which is the typical Republican modus operandi, right? It's blame the Democrats for the deficit, cut taxes.
Great irony is Republicans always run on that they will cut this, they will cut that, and they run the deficit up every time, like clockwork.
Trump said he was going to balance. He was not only going to balance the budget, but pay off the national debt of accumulated deficits, which of course he never did. He added $8 trillion to the deficit in 4 years. But then, Biden gets elected and suddenly the Republicans have a conscience and start screaming, deficits. And it's like, okay. You get used to it after a while, but it doesn't make it any easier to understand how people don't see what they're doing.
Every once in a while I get asked, do you discuss politics on your channel? And I said yes and no. I said the truth is I don't care if we talk politics or not. I kind of leave it up to the guests. So when you decide to go in that direction, hey, I'm all in. Yep, I'm going to make another guest go there. But hey, if you want to bring it up, well, I'm okay about talking about it.
Yeah, well, I think you and I are pretty much aligned on our politics. So,
yeah, the truth is, I don't even mind talking to folks that disagree with me completely, as long as we're going to be honest about it, right?
Yeah, same here. I'm okay with that.
Then fact, if you can look at that fact and say, okay, well, you were right, I was wrong. Yeah. But the problem is, most of the people we talk to now don't have that ability. No. Even when you can show them an actual fact, show them a provable fact, they'll look at that and say, no.
Well, I think there used to be a day where you could have disagreements and be civil about them. And on St. Patrick's Day, who better to talk about than Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill? There's a couple.
I was going to say the Tip O'Neill days. I was just going to say Tip O'Neill.
Those guys went at it tooth and nail, but it still was different than it is today. I think it wasn't.
It is. I mean, Tip O'Neill, Tip would even tell stories about them yelling at each other in the halls, and then going out to a bar 20 minutes later.
Yep, absolutely. It was.
But people can't be friends now.
Yeah, it was much different then, and I don't think I think if Ronald Reagan was here today, that he would he
Ronald
would,
Reagan would even be considered a Republican today.
yeah, he
Then
would, well,
Rhino best.
he would be livid. I mean, he would, if he saw what's been done to the Republican Party. Here's a guy that, um, I mean, I think his greatest accomplishment was bringing down the Soviet Union. And here's
Yeah, but
Trump.
he also killed the middle class, so we can
Well, the
we,
middle class is here. He set us back for sure.
Reagan killed the middle class.
Yeah, I mean, he was another deficit spender, right? He ran deficits, but he also ran the defense budget up, and the Soviets couldn't match us. So he did. You got to give the guy his due. They couldn't. We could do guns and butter. The Soviets couldn't, and he brought them down. But now you have Donald Trump, and he wants to hand the Soviet Union right back to Putin. If he had his way, he would. He would absolutely. Not only do I believe he would not help. He wouldn't help Ukraine. He'd be sending munitions over to the Russians to try and.
But what's so bizarre is you've got Republicans of today defending Putin.
Yeah,
You've got
this nut job here in Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She doesn't want to give money to Ukraine. She wants to.
They're actually defending Putin.
I mean, we don't have to. All we have to do is help them with money. The Europeans are doing it too, so it's not just us. But they're doing the dying. Their country was invaded by Russia. They didn't invade Russia, so I mean, it's pretty clear who the bad guys are. But I mean, I hear the Trump thumpers out there saying that it's Ukraine's fault. They started the war. I'm like, seriously? You do know that the Russians annexed Crimea from 10 years ago, and they've been all over Ukraine ever since. But tell me again. They don't want to do anything.
Believe what they're told. They will not look at the reality of the situation.
That's exactly so. And
you can pull up. You could take your phone. We all have a computer in our pockets. You could take your phone and pull up an actual fact and show it right to them, and they'll say, "No, that's not true."
Yeah, they
no,
do. They will. No.
That's not opinion. This is a fact. No, that's not true. You cannot have a rational discussion with people like that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's people, there are liberals that are the same way, and you can't have a rational. I've seen it, right? But I don't think it's anywhere near as common.
You got to be able to look at a fact and say, "Okay, I was wrong."
Yep.
And if you can't do that, you've lost touch with reality.
No, we just need to. I think we can't forget history, and we have to look back and realize that I mean, these people that don't want to help Ukraine today, if there had been people like that in France, when we were just talking about the founding fathers, we never could have won the Revolutionary War without the assistance of France.
Yeah.
So if it wasn't for the French, we'd all be speaking English right now. That's all I can say. So, but that's a joke. People always say if it were, people say tell the French sometimes because we went and helped them in World War II that they'd be speaking German.
It's like fortune biscuits and all sorts of strange shit.
Yeah, but the relevant point is that we couldn't have won the war. We absolutely would not have won the war without yeah, we'd be tea and you and I'd be having tea and crumpets right now. We wouldn't be drinking beer and whiskey.
Oh man. So who would you like to see without going crazy about politics? Maybe we've got as far as we can go, but who would you like to see? Who would you like to see run?
I don't know because I don't think either part. My wife actually liked Nikki Haley on the Republican side. I don't know that I do.
Various versions of Donald Trump basically was the problem.
Yeah, she's I
didn't have like a Republican up there.
It's hard to say from that side of the only one that's any.
But I would hate to say this. I mean, even the thought of it really bothers me. But if Liz Cheney would have ran,
well, I was just going to say that.
It might be different, but as much as I hate her father,
yeah, exactly.
As much as it really, makes my acid churn up. If Liz Cheney would, at least they would have had somebody with a little bit of integrity in there.
But that's exactly why she could never be nominated in the Republican Party as it exists today, because she has integrity. And that's not what they're looking for. They're if
you're a Democrat, you would like to have the ability to run.
I mean, last time around, I liked Bernie Sanders, but I think he's got health issues the same as. So
the younger candidate you think might be able to fill that shoes at some point. So for me, my thoughts are I wouldn't mind seeing Pete run?
Yeah, I like Pete, but I don't know if he has the experience on the global stage. But hell, Trump didn't. And
At this point, doesn't matter. You're gonna. It's on the job training. I mean, is there anybody anywhere that didn't lie about their
no, I
ability?
would have no problem voting for Pete Buttigieg if he ran and he was the candidate. Absolutely, I think he is definitely one of the better options.
Is there a younger candidate you'd like to see get involved?
I can't really think of
And
any.
so maybe not this time, or maybe 4 years from now. But is do you like
Nobody is really.
first?
That's one of the problems. I think the problem in both parties is that there isn't anybody that is somebody that could come forward and be a great option that people could rally around. I don't. It doesn't mean that there. I say there isn't any that we know of, but it doesn't mean that somebody couldn't come forward and become that candidate, right? But they're not getting the opportunity because neither party really has had, much of a had much of a primary. There were no Democrats running against.
No, there wasn't any. No, but
How do we know that there's not a good candidate out there?
what do you think about candidates like Hakeem Jeffries or AOC? Do you think they have possibilities?
I like AOC. I like Hakeem Jeffries, but I think, especially in the case of AOC, I think she's too liberal for independents to vote for. So I think,
oh no,
I think for her that's a problem, and so that's an electability issue.
she does have the ability to get people excited.
She does. The Green New Deal is, I think that could be definitely something to rally people on and run on because we're running out of time with global warming and we're not really doing anything about it. But it's, we talk about the economy. People tend to focus on the economy, but you ain't going to have one if it's 120 degrees outside in Boston on the 4th of July. So I don't know.
Along those lines, I want to change the topic slightly, but along those lines of what you just said, I've got a friend who's a meteorologist. And when I say meteorologist, I'm not talking about on the news. I'm talking about somebody that analyzes data for a living. And she has said she doesn't want to give out certain specifics, but we're pretty much fucked. I mean, it's too late. It's too late to make the changes we need to make. Things are going to happen, and it's just the way it is.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree that it's too late.
But they're basically saying these things are already in motion now. There's nothing we can do now to change it.
They are, but I don't think the plan is going to become unlivable if we made the changes we need to make in the next 10 years.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I think what she was telling me was that people don't realize how bad it is. You've got they're saying, "No, it's not that bad. Things are going to be fine," but things are really bad.
Yeah, the problem, it's like, it's like putting a lobster in a pot of water and raising the temperature 1 degree every few minutes or whatever, that you don't notice right away, but sooner or later
you're going to die and become
notice, and there's too late to do anything. And I think that's the problem, is that people they don't want to change, and they won't change, and so Mother Nature is just going to change things for us and kill a lot of us.
As Americans, we've become more about money than doing the right thing.
Yeah, but it's not even unique to this country. I mean, it's around the world. Nobody wants to make the change.
Exactly, yeah. Regular people, I hear it all the time in Missouri here. Regulations. But when people say they want to repeal regulations, what they're saying is they want the ability to pollute and you not be unhappy about it.
Yeah.
They want to make money off of doing the wrong thing and you to be okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, regulations, you have to have them. You can't not have regulations. Prevent a license to steal. Because
nuclear waste in the ocean, everybody be okay with it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And if we were to, I don't know, we stepped in the wrong direction when we got pulled out of the Paris agreements under Trump. And he'll do it again.
Yeah.
He's already said he wants to increase drilling and get us out of, because climate change is not real, and of course it's real. You just look at the data. if you look at the data, you'll see that.
Let's say I can't even have a discussion with these folks. It's not only real, but it's already in motion.
It's
Things
already
are already happening that you cannot change.
right. No, the global mean temperatures are on the rise.
Quality of life we have better, but we can't change what is already happening.
No, but you can halt it. I mean,
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. You can change what quality of life we have, or you could try to slow it down, but what's happening is going to happen.
no, I mean, there's if you look at the increase in levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, that's what's driving global warming. That's us, right? We pump carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every single day. And we like to say the evangelicals will tell you, well, there's nothing that man can't do. I'm sorry.
I love those guys.
Yeah, man can't create what God can't destroy what God created. I was like, oh, really? Ask the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki how what their environment was like in World War II.
That level of stupidity.
Yeah, when we dropped nuclear weapons on them, they certainly we've destroyed what was created. So it can be done, and we are doing it, but it can be stopped. I mean, if the increase in carbon dioxide is causing global warming, well, you stop it. There's even technologies, though they're suspect because I think just the scale is probably beyond what we can do. But you can actually remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and sequester it into caves or the oceans or what have you. And bring the levels back down and decrease the levels of global warming. But we don't even have the ability to stop increasing the levels. We're not going to do it. We're not like, I mean, the dinosaurs were stupid, right? They probably looked up and saw that asteroid coming, but there was nothing they could do about it. We can see what's coming and we still don't do anything. So who's worse, us or the dinosaurs? So.
Our arms are longer, but we're no smarter than a T-Rex.
Yeah, we've got walnut-sized brains too. We just don't want to admit it. So.
Anyway,
although we do have beer, and the dinosaurs didn't have beer.
That's what people ask me. Well, Tom, what are you going to do once you know the world is going to come to an end? I said, I'm gonna be like Nero. I'm going to sit outside burn. I'm going to take my finest whiskey. I'm going to sit on my porch. I'm going to pour a shot. I'm going to drink it until it swallows me up.
You don't want it to go to waste. That's for sure. So, yeah.
I'm just going to sit out there and watch it go. If we can't make that change, fuck it. I'm not going to worry about it. Once I know it's over, there's no point worrying about it anymore, is there?
No, it's like aliens there. Game over, man. Game over. So,
Are you having another beer, John?
Yeah, I'm still working on this one. But next up, I've got a Guinness. So
a Guinness. I didn't buy any this year. I have in years past, but I didn't buy any this year.
I got some of the draft nitro cans, and I got the dry stout in the bottles is my favorite packaged Guinness. Nothing beats draft Guinness. Actually, I like. Actually, my favorite is the foreign extra stout and the special extra stout.
Yes,
I don't really see those. Haven't seen them in a while. So if I can't get those, Guinness extra stout is Old Faithful. That's the first Guinness I ever had. So.
Yeah,
there are so many different kinds of Guinness.
They used to be able to buy the FES here, and I can't anymore. I looked at all the stores this year, and I couldn't find it.
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in quite some time.
I love the FES, man. That beer was great. Was it 7.5%? If I remember right.
I think that's what it was. Something tells me that's exactly what it was. 7.5%.
Or more than your typical Guinness.
Yeah, and I forget. It was for a time you couldn't get it at all in the United States, and a brewer I knew in the '90s brought me some from Jamaica, and I think it was Was it brewed there at the time by Desnos and Getty?
Yes,
I think it was. So, but it's really, really actually that and Dragon Stout from Jamaica is really good too. That's inspired by Guinness foreign extra stout.
Really, I had that, but now that's interesting.
Dragon Stout is real, and that is Desnos and Geddes. So
Ah,
but I haven't seen that in a while either. So, and then the special export stout, that was very, very rare. And I think that was issued. I have a bottle of Guinness Antwerp stout that I may drink later on tonight,
oh,
which is
really? Oh, I got it. Gosh, I haven't seen that in about half a decade.
I don't know if it was quite that long, but it's an old bottle that I have. I haven't seen it
Well, the
recently.
last time I had that.
Yeah, it was a while ago. You're right. It's been around, and so we'll see how it's.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. All that was available to me this year was the usual suspects.
Yeah. Although, there is a non-alcoholic Guinness out now too that I haven't tried. So,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm not really a fan of non-alcoholic beer. I would prefer to, if I'm going to have beer, alcohol is an integral component of the flavor of beer. And, I mean, you might get close, but you can't. I've had some decent non-alcoholic beers that, I mean, they were malty and they were really hoppy, but you need the alcohol to
You're
get it.
missing something, right?
Yeah, you're missing something. What's the point, So
It's like a hooker that just wants to cuddle.
there you go. That's it's like sex without an orgasm. It's like beer without alcohol. What's the point of either, right? So
I'm
you,
going to work and getting nothing out of it.
yeah. So, I mean, if I couldn't drink alcohol anymore, I think that then I would just drink something else, right? Tea and coffee and beer. I'm not beer, root beer or whatever. But it's
Well, I
just
love root beer. I'm a bit of a root beer junkie as well. I mean, I'm a root beer connoisseur.
oh, my son loves root beer, and he
Uh,
tries to
so
find
it was the same way. So every time we go to a store, anywhere we travel anywhere, we'd have to find whatever root beer was local, and we'd buy everything. Oh man,
Yep, that's what he does, and he loves craft root beers. Like Red Hair Brewing makes a really good one, so he drinks that quite often. He's had the Sprecher, but we haven't seen that in a while. And I do the same thing every time if I see a craft brew.
yeah,
I'm sorry.
the Sprecher is very good.
Yes. Yep. So it's not all that dissimilar from
Brewing company in my neck of the woods. They make their own root beer there too, and that's a damn fine root beer. I got to tell you.
Yeah, there's a difference.
A lot of breweries will do a root beer, and it's man.
Because the commitment to quality is the same as it is for the beer.
Well,
right?
they don't use cane sugar. They don't use granulated. Only use raw sugar. So you've got a nice product that's clean, and you're not adding preservatives to your product.
Yep. And yeah, trying to cheapen it for sure.
I've got an old picture. I don't know if you were a friend of Stuart Picard from the Ginger Ale Trail, but he visited me back in 2012 when we went to Springfield Brewing Company. I've got a picture of him, myself, and my son Seamus, and Seamus is drinking a root beer. He's hanging out with us drinking a root beer.
I remember Stuart. Yeah. I remember him staying with you.
Oh, mercy.
I'm a big fan of birch beer.
Birch beer or sarsaparilla.
Yeah,
There's a lot of similarities between the products.
But you can't get them here. They're not sold here.
Why not?
I don't know. I never see them. Used to be able to get birch beer and diet birch beer in New England made by Polar. Polar Soda in Worcester, Mass. They actually made very good stuff.
Polar Malta here.
Yeah, I see that. Have you ever heard of Moxie?
Oh yeah. I can't get them here, but I've heard of them. Yeah.
But
now, I love the Polar Maltas. Oh my God, those are great.
We get Polar. We just don't get the birch beer, and we don't get the Cape Cod Dry either, which was really good. If I like it, they don't send it here. That's the problem. So.
It's a conspiracy, John.
It is.
Somebody told me long ago just because you're paranoid doesn't mean somebody isn't out to get you.
That is so true. They're like, if you want this stuff, you got to come back to New England. So,
doesn't mean somebody's after you.
But there's a lot of people that would say we don't want him to come back to New England. He can stay where he is. So my brother used to say, whatever you did when you left, the Patriots started winning, so you're not allowed to come back. But
no.
now the Patriots aren't winning
We're
anymore.
back on the ground again, so you might want you back.
Yeah, so he might say it's okay to come back now, but I guess we'll see. So we got some big changes brewing, and we'll see how we do next year. But
Well, I'm a diehard Rams fan, so I'm kind of used to 4-12 seasons. But now it seems like we win a Super Bowl out of the blue for no apparent reason, and then never win one again for about a decade and a half.
well, the first part's okay. It's just the second part that's not as good. But
Yeah,
you win one out of the blue. That's fun.
they almost have a dynasty going on, and then we just suck hind tit again for a half year.
I think the
Figure out what's going on.
a lot of teams have that Super Bowl hangover.
Now we got all these players doing well, and everybody just craps.
Yeah, that's the thing. You win, but then you start to lose players because suddenly they think they're worth all kinds of money, and they start signing with other teams.
The Chiefs, I live in the Chiefs neighborhood, so man, things are looking good for them at this particular moment in time.
Yeah, they've been able to avoid that. We did too. You know, we had a streak for a long time, but the Chiefs are doing the same thing. They're still winning. You know,
you've got the players that have decided to stay for that reason.
Well, yeah, but they've lost players too, like what Tyreek Hill.
They've had the key players decide to stay and take a little less money because they'd rather win than make more money.
Yeah, yeah.
You got that nucleus of Mahomes and Kelsey.
Yeah, that's key. But you know, you need you need a defense and you need a solid O-line, and those players are usually more inclined to stay.
But I remember when I first got here in the late 80s, early 90s, the Chiefs franchise was all about defense. They never had much of an offense. They won a lot of 7-0 games or lost a lot of 7-0 games.
That's tough. That's tough to sustain.
But now we got this different nucleus going on, and man,
they're definitely the offense driven now. But
and Kelsey, I mean, so when I was always a big fan of Tony Gonzalez, and man, nobody's ever going to do what he did. And you've got Kelsey going, okay. I mean, he is arguably the greatest tight end of all time at this point.
Well, of course, I would have to debate that and say that Rob Gronkowski was, but
I think Gronkowski was great, but he had a shorter career.
He got injured.
He didn't have the longevity to be as great as either Gonzalez or Kelsey, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he didn't eclipse Gonzalez's numbers, but he was great for his time. There was no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, he certainly lost playing time, but he had certainly great seasons here in New England, and then I didn't follow him when he went.
Yeah, he still didn't have the numbers of Tony Gonzalez.
I don't know. I've never looked at him, so you're probably right. You're probably right. But he was just in my book. He was a tank, and
I love Gronkowski. He was always on my fantasy football team.
That was
the man was a freaking beast.
Even if all right, he catches the ball.
Because he hurt everybody.
Yeah, now you got to get him down. That's the tough part, right? And a lot of times, I mean, he would just.
The man was. I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying I can put him number one because of those other factors. I got him 3 under Kelsey, Gonzalez, and.
You got to look at the stats. Absolutely, the stats tell the story.
But yeah, for me, he's number 3. But I understand why you have him listed up there.
Yeah, I'm going to be partial because part of that is not just because of but I saw him, right?
Football, he was always on my team, but
yeah.
But for me, it's going to be. I would used to say Gonzalez, Kelsey, and Gronkowski, but Kelsey I think is eclipse those numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, so for me, Gronkowski is 3, but he's one of the greatest. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, he was something, and of course, I never miss a game, so I've seen him a lot, right? More than those other guys. So of course I'm going to be biased.
Oh no! I have those players myself that I saw a lot. Yeah. I do understand that. Yeah. Growing up in California, I was a diehard Dodger fan. So that nucleus of that 70s, 80s Dodger teams of Garvey, Lopes, Russell, Say. But me, oh God.
For sure. I actually was a big
My name is Thomas John, and I was named after the baseball pitcher Tommy John.
Oh, I didn't know that.
A person and a surgery was named after him.
Yeah, Tommy John surgery. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, those were the days. Those are the golden days for baseball for me, anyway. I kind of lost interest after the strikes of the '80s.
You
And
know, the funny thing is, I hear that from a lot of people that seem to ignore the football strikes. Football has had an equal number of strikes, but people want to hold on to baseball for some reason.
well, to me, the difference, and again, I was the same way with baseball in the '70s. Um, I would do my homework every night, listening to West Coast games on the radio, watching games on TV. I would every game. I used to go to. I'd go to Boston to Fenway every now and then, but more frequently to McCoy Stadium in Pawtucket because my grandparents lived right near it, and that was the top farm team for the Boston Red Sox. I was a
Yep.
huge Red Sox fan, but I think for me, the difference, the defining difference is football players in those days never got paid anything close to what baseball players did. And it was for me, it was the takeaway was these guys are, I don't have a lot of money. And here these guys, I'm struggling to get by. I'm working for $3.35 an hour. And these guys are multimillionaires and they're not going to play because they want even more than they're getting already. And who pays for that? The fans, right? Well, football wasn't perfect either, and those strikes were. I did watch the replacement players play, so I didn't boycott football during the strikes, but I could understand it a little bit more. I think because they, and in football, the realization is that you're far more likely to get hurt playing football than you are playing baseball, and
I disagree. Football is more physical, but you're only playing 16 games.
you're only
You
playing
know,
16 games, but look at what happens to them.
baseball is a marathon. Baseball is playing 162 games. You're more likely to get hurt playing baseball. I disagree with that logic completely.
Well, I mean, you're not going to get hurt and suffer lifelong consequences.
No, I disagree because
I
you've
don't
got
think.
that long term. You're playing 162 games, John.
Yeah,
You're
but
playing times the number of games. You're going to get hurt.
I think the big difference is the concussions, and it's look at the traumatic head injuries and the effect it has on these guys. Like look at Junior Seau, who killed himself.
Yeah, that's
because he just couldn't stand it anymore. And he actually agreed to have his brain.
Talking about there is the lack of mental health benefits.
Well, I mean, you have to find ways to and I think the league really has tried to find ways to reduce the number of concussions. The concussion protocols are definitely a lot more conservative. They'll take somebody out, on a much lighter hit these days than they ever would before, and I think that's a good thing, right? But it's tough because
you still franchises pushing players to do more than they should.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I don't think you can do that. Look at the scare over Tua, right? Because he had
that was crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest.
I'm going to post this comment up there. Hey, thanks, Thomas. I appreciate you tuning in, man.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Here we are talking about football on St. Patrick's. I guess we should be talking about what?
Well, we've talked about history, politics, football, beer, whiskey. But
we should be talking about their football, which we call soccer.
Yeah.
Were you ever much of a soccer fan?
No, not really. I don't know why. I just never grew up watching it, so it was never basketball.
Football, I guess. Hurley, Thomas Middle says Hurley.
Yep.
Anyway, I digress. I guess we've been talking a little over an hour. We probably better wrap it up. John, any parting thoughts for this particular St. Patrick's Day?
No, just everybody. I hope everybody has a happy St. Patrick's Day and enjoys, maybe a Guinness or whatever it is you enjoy and some good food. And I think it's a great day. I'm not Irish, but I think it's a great day for Irish appreciation. Right. A lot of the holiday is not really, it's American Irish more than anything else.
Yeah, it's more of an Irish American holiday. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's okay, right? Because people celebrating their Irish heritage,
it's about, yeah, that's what a lot of folks don't get. It's about celebrating your heritage.
yeah, and it's for people like me that are not Irish to also
Understand
appreciate.
why we do it.
You can still appreciate it. You don't have to, any culture. You don't have to be part of that culture to appreciate it. You can enjoy the food. You can enjoy the values and other things like that. So I think that's great. I knew someone once that told her kids she was Irish, but they were not. So not everybody can be Irish, but
Well, that's interesting.
yeah,
I want more of that story.
yeah, that's just one of those things that
I'm Irish, but sure not.
yeah.
Maybe I'm your mother.
I'm like, well, how does that work? How does that happen? Or,
I'm curious about that. Yeah,
yeah, so
I want to hear the rest of that story at some point.
yeah, I will tell you. But yeah. All right, Tom. Well,
I want to thank the Bruguru for joining me. If you're not familiar with them, check out it's still bruguru.com, right?
it is bruguru.com or
In
guruofbrew.com.
my opinion, as humble as it is, he is the best beer reviewer in the business. There is nobody better.
Well, thank you, sir. Much appreciated.
And I think that for a lot of reasons, because a lot of folks will break it down to this beer, and this. But your reviews are more than that. You tell a personal story about the beer, you talk about the beer, and then you have a relatable interest about the beer. So
Yeah,
it's
thanks, man.
not just clinical. You really break it down to there is a reason why you're the best in the game.
Well, I appreciate that. I do try to keep it a little folksy and relate it to the human experience, which is what it's really all about, right? Beer, food. It's an important part of what we do every day. And
Nobody writes a beer review better than you. Well,
well, thank you, sir. Much appreciated. That is high praise indeed coming from you. So thanks.
hey, I want to thank John for joining me. I am Tom the Beer Whisperer, beer evangelist, prolific beer drinker, pervertism, all around good guy. Sláinte.